Good morning. I'm Cecilia, Ollis. I'm just really grateful for this opportunity to share how the Lord has radically transformed every part of my life. I was baptized as a baby and went to church most Sundays, but I would not claim to knowing Christ at a young age. Growing up, I did well outside the house, but I struggled deeply within myself and with my parents. I was athletic and a good student, so I usually did well outside, but I caused lots of conflict at home, and my friendship suffered because I either just picked at the little things that everyone would do or was often excluded because I did this. Later on, I started dedicating all my time to marching band in high school. From this, I met a guy who I eventually dated and brought me to playing rugby as well. For almost 3 years, we did not spend a single day apart. We were codependent, pretty manipulative, and just not a good relationship at all. So the relationship became very unstable. We did go to church together every Sunday in youth group, but we put our identity in each other, which was really harmful to both of us for that long. At the end of my senior year of high school, I was battling a knee injury with the risk of not making it to West Point in the class of 2026. My parents and I both struggled with the idea I would be home because I caused major blow-up fights and major strife, and it would not have been successful for me to not have anything to put my energy into, but also to be home for a year. Thankfully, praise the Lord, I got cleared about 3 days before our day, and leaving home was a blessing. After basic training, I went into the first week of plebe year, and I went to the plebe retreat at Camp Buckner, looking for a husband, not for God. But instead, I ended up being recruited to play the drum set for the Bridge worship team. It was a contemporary worship service on post. I met my friend Isaiah, who is a strong believer and just so happened to sit next to me at the women's rugby table as an extra or floater, as we know as cadets. He would see the way I behaved at service on Sunday versus on the daily with my teammates at lunch, but he remained a faithful friend to me. Rugby season started, and surprise, it was what I had hoped for, but it was a new type of unfulfillment that I hadn't experienced before. It was competitive rugby, friends, but I still wasn't getting enough playing time or playing well enough as I thought, or deep enough relationships. Eventually, I started hanging out with anyone who would have me and got addicted to partying, addictive substances, alcohol, and dopamine in general. I was getting by just fine with my GPA and West Point standards. I wasn't at risk, but I was a complete emotional wreck. I sought fulfillment in a new romantic relationship, and even though it was different and not as bad, it still left me extremely empty, and I was just adrift. I was recognized for rugby at a high level, but continued to serve myself and other desires, even with these new opportunities I thought were going to be it. After a very draining and fruitless first summer, I went into the first day of my sophomore year. During a practice in a non-tackle drill, I jumped to catch a ball just like normal and crashed into a fellow teammate. I fell a very odd way and ended up tearing my knee in 3 places, making it the worst knee injury Keller Hospital has seen in over 20 years. It seemed if I had lost everything in a span of 20 seconds, and the ability to walk, rugby, being a normal cadet, walking to class, I couldn't do any of that. And from that, after being encouraged by my parents and friends, I tried to remember my childhood faith I used to have, but I realized I didn't know much at all. I could probably have counted the times on my fingers I'd opened my Bible that I wasn't sitting in church or being asked to. A few weeks went by, and that same friend, Isaiah, encouraged me by inviting me to OCF, or Christian Club. From there, I started making friends, and these people acted so loving and accepting. I had something I had never experienced before. Eventually went on a few retreats and led me to meeting and loving the Colby family. Missy Colby from that has been one of the best examples I could have of faith in a Christian household, just the whole family. Her devotion to the Lord, serving anyone and everyone and helping everyone grow just made me admire her and wanted deeply the joy that she had in her life. 2 weekends after that, the Corps was at a football game, and as one does when on crutches, I had nothing to do, so I sat in my room by myself. I decided, I'm just going to read the entire book of Job. I've heard about it. And so I read of his suffering and losing everything, but his continual obedience and faithfulness to the Lord, no matter what any of his friends said. Job's story revealed that even the faithful can experience immense pain without understanding why. And I had not been faithful. So it was like, it didn't make sense that he was faithful and got pain, but I was also in pain. So I decided I wanted to start from the ground up and try to be faithful because I could not continue going the way that I was. In that time, sitting at my desk, I gave my life to Christ and believed that God sent his son Jesus to die for me and my sins. Since that moment, the Lord has blessed me with immense growth and knowledge of his word, deep fellowship, and the best friends that I could ever imagine, and great peace and comfort. The initial chains of addiction, partying, and fulfillment in human relationships were broken. My parents didn't even recognize me by my actions. After a few months of following the Lord and learning to be obedient, I was baptized by Baptist Campus Ministries' Joshua Austin and my good friend Isaiah. My commitment has been to get in the Word every day, pray, and live a life that shows the mercy that God has had on me. It has not always been easy, and I've faced the most tension with the girls on the rugby team. At first, I was so radically different in trying to convert everyone that it caused great mistrust and confusion. After over a year, I've been blessed to continue to play with the girls and hopefully being light in a dark environment. I'm also thankful for my community as I can still struggle with the consequences of my deep past-rooted sin and just learning to lay it all at the Lord's feet. I'm so grateful for the Colbys bringing me to Grace Baptist Church, as my first service was spring break and there was no one here. And just to all the relationships that the Deverells and the Fiorellis and the Goffs has been since then. And I would love to serve as an associate member so I could be held accountable with wise spiritual authority, grow in the body of this blessed church, and just be a part and serve in any way that I can. Thank you for the impact that you all and the church has had on my life, and the Lord truly deserves the glory for bearing my sin and shame and giving me a new life that I never thought was possible. Thank you.